produced a letter that is more powerful than anything that has went forward, that is going to the Judiciary Committee and the U.S. Congress. We're asking the U.S. Congress Judiciary Committee to assign a special prosecutor to this case. Well, why you, Brother Minister, don't want to get some local person? Because the dirty South has never been able to prosecute its own. It was the dirty South that killed the Malcolm and the Dorset. It wasn't just regular citizens, it was FBI and Justice Department and police and sheriffs and all kind of law enforcement. They cannot police their own. We need a special prosecutor. Now, what is your role in that letter? When we get that letter completed, if you are a part of an organization, we need your signature on the bottom of it. If you are a person who will receive that letter the same way George is sending out the information on the person who is going to share with you about the murders, we need you to pass the letter around. Why is that important? Because when we give them the letter, you can call and say, hey, Mr. Chairman, I was on the Mooresford Bridge when this minister who was talking kind of crazy at times, but I understood him at other times, said that a letter went to you about an investigation on the Mooresford Bridge. I just want to know, what have you done with the letter?
All right.
Oh, I hadn't seen it. Okay, I'm glad you answered that. What is your email address? Because I have my copy, and I want to make sure that you get your copy. And so if we're all doing that over and over and over again, then we'll get justice.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we need you on this bridge. Watch this. You've already been given a number to call for Kendrick Johnson. How many of you all have that number? Raise your hand. Do you still have the number? Velma. Who has the number? Who has the number?
Marcus.
Coleman.
You all don't have the number. We've got to get that number to you all. There's a number also there. We need to tie it together.
Greetings. This is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. I'm getting ready to introduce you to information that Eric Holder of the Department of Justice, I understand, have had access to for over a year. I have been told that the national NAACP as well had possession of the video you're about to see. I did not produce this video, but I will assure you that former NAACP State President Edward DuBose, Representative Tyrone Brooks, G.B.R, an organization about black elected officials, and others are fully aware of what you will see in this video. This video is one that I did not record, but it has become a part of the historic archival record of the new civil rights movement. As you know, in the late 90s, Reverend Joseph Lowry made the statement here at our local auditorium that the next civil rights movement would take place in South Georgia with Brooks and Lowndes County, Georgia. Little did I know, little did you know, little did anybody know, that it seems as if though that prophecy has become a reality. And so I'm going to show you a couple clips from Mooresford Bridge, March And from there, the video that some American citizen, a white European, chose to release to the civil rights organization, let me repeat, the civil rights organizations, to help solve the racial tension that is in our beloved nation. And so on behalf of all good Americans and other earthlings around the planet Earth, I'm asking you to sit back, be educated, and ask yourself a question. How could it be that the Department of Justice, and how could it be that any American could sit on this information that was given to me this morning, and now we're sharing it with you? Once again, Representative Tyrone Brooks, the Georgia State NAACP, the SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, President Steele, and many other names have been added to the mix of asking for a reopening of the Moores Ford Bridge murders back in 1946. The names have been sent to Washington, to the Judiciary Committee and other areas of the United States government. I was asked to do what I'm doing on behalf of all Americans and other people around the world that wants justice in God's world. Whether you are a Muslim, Christian, atheist, Hindu, or a member of Judaism, you want justice for all human beings, or you should. And so we are going to allow you to do what we believe the white founding fathers of this great republic and all the civil rights giants who have traveled through here for the good of humanity would be pleased by the judiciary and the Justice Department under Eric Holder and others to look into what these righteous men and women in civil rights circles want you to know. Listen and be informed. The letter have already gone out to Washington, D.C. to reopen the case of the Moores Ford Bridge massacre. I'm George Boston Rhines, doing what I've been asked to do, because once again, the American people and the world has a right to know under our form of government.
So here's the message. Here's what we need to do. George Ryan, raise your hand on that, brother. This is one of the baddest brothers in the civil rights movement. And I'm not saying it because I'm facing him. I'm not saying it because he's my friend. I'm not saying it, Tyrone, because he's here right now.
Good man.
When you see his videos, you'll see this, but he's got everything connected. George Ryan is going to take this information and YouTube it. Where's my other brother that already got it together?
Clyde Bradley right here.
Clyde, right in front of me.
That's right.
Give him a round of applause.
Yes, sir.
He already got it downloaded. He got it downloaded. It's downloaded now. So Clyde and George. Clyde is going to get this information in the hands of George. And George is going to put this information out on YouTube.
Amen.
And your responsibility is, where are all of the social network
Hold them up.
gurus in the crowd? You know how to deal with this social media. I don't. You know how to take something and put it on Facebook and everywhere it needs to go. Raise your hand, young people. Y'all right here. Come on, get them hands in there.
Revolution won't be televised, but it will be.
We need you. We need you. We need you. We need you as soon as you get this information to send it over and over and over again. Why am I saying it? Because we have already put this information, Tyrone, in the hands of the Justice Department. Eric Holder, Roy Austin, and their team have this information. So you say, if they have this information, Brother Minister, why they ain't doing it? Because people have never did anything until they were made uncomfortable.
Amen.
And so until we can make them understand that we know you got the information, but we're going to spread it out and give you a little help. We want to help you move out of your position of complacency. And so when George Rhymes send this information out, please, George, what is it going to be listed under?
Boston G.B.R.
Boston G.B.R. Now, if you're connected in any way to Tyrone's G.B.R. network, I don't know if you are or aren't, but you need to be. Tyrone is going to make sure you have it also. He's going to send it out. You've got to have it. You've got to have it. You've got to have it. There's no way that we're going to get justice in this case unless you do. We are closer, Tyrone, than ever. Why do you think they trying to take Tyrone out? I want to make it plain. Tyrone won't talk about it, but I will.
All right.
Why is the Justice Department spending all this money trying to prosecute Tyrone Brooks and no money in Walton County trying to prosecute the murderer? That's the question you have to ask yourself. You might say somebody in the audience who's trying to be a, I don't know, educated thinker, well, it must be something there. Okay, well, let's take your position. Let's take your position that it must be something there. If that's the case, why is David McDade not being prosecuted right now if it's something there? David McDade in Douglas County is the biggest criminal living now. And the Attorney General gave him a break and told him all he had to pay was $4,000. And David McDade, if you're too young to understand, it was not connected with the media, was the one that did Janalo Wilson in.
Amen.
And the Douglasville 6, you got to understand what the enemy is doing.
All right.
But we can make it bigger than that.
All right.
If it must be something there, then why didn't they prosecute Governor Deal before he became the governor?
There it is!
I want you to hear this. So when you begin to look at this, our own mother said the only thing saved him was becoming the governor.
All right, then.
What I'm saying is, when you begin to debate what they saying, or you trying to get in a conversation with them, bring the facts back at them.
That's right.
How did this man become so important
All right.
that the entire Justice Department staff resources are on him?
That's right.
At a time when we are uncovering perhaps the last bit of information before bringing these murderers that they say are dead to jail, to prison. I don't care if the oldest one is 98 years old. I want to see him march into the prison system.
All right.
How can you be so cruel? I thought he just said you're a minister. I am. I didn't say I wasn't going to pray for him. I said I want to see him march into the prison system. I can still pray for him in prison.
That's right. That's right.
And so your first challenge, because you've got to get this done,
Yes.
is to send this message around.
Yes.
So if you please, if you could start, but tell me your name and where you're from, and just saying that we have permission to record this.
Okay. Name Wayne Watson. I'm from Monroe, Georgia. I left here in 78. I come back in 93.
Okay.
And y'all got permission to record.
So if you could just tell me the one by one the names of the people that you know are still alive, their approximate age, and what you know about their involvement on the bridge in 1946 with the lynching on the Morse Ford Bridge.
Okay, Charlie Peppers, that's my uncle, and he ought to be about 85 or 86. He was the youngest one in the family. And all through my life, all I heard them talk about the Morse Ford and the lynching and stuff, and I lived around it in Campton. And I come back in '93, I started hanging around them. I said, I'm gonna see what I can do about all this. And every day I made documents. I wrote it down, and he talked about how the woman, that thing, he was laughing. He said, well, the people thought the woman was pregnant by a black man. So her husband was in the military, and she was pregnant by a white man. And he said, Wayne, they cut the baby out, washed the baby off in the creek, and put it up for adoption in Atlanta. I said, no, they didn't either. He said, yes, they did. So you don't call me a blank liar unless you was there like I was. Who
was the white man that she was reportedly had the affair with, whose baby she had?
Hester. It was Hester. He told me I'll get the main.
What's Hester's first name?
I think it's Barry.
Okay.
But Lord.
And he's from Hestertown, is that right?
Right. Yes.
And who else is still living besides Mr. Pepper?
You've got a number of them. I got another uncle named Earl Royster. He's a member of the Klan. You got the members.
And Mr. Royster, and that's Royster?
Yes, sir.
Earl Royster, you said he's a member of the Klan, and he was also on the bridge that night?
Right, because he's about the same age as my uncle, Charlie. Okay. He's my uncle, too. You got a lot of them back in '93 when I come here. You had a bunch of them still alive, and everything like John F. Moore, Jack Smith, Breedlove, Iron Breedlove.
These men used to talk about it?
They was in a meeting. I remember them years ago when people talked about who was all the members and everything.
What kind of meeting?
They had a KKK meeting at the courthouse. A lot of people don't understand. When that torch got lit, the KKK lit it. But they end up putting that other stuff on it to cover up for what they done. They had a election where you join a membership drive and everything. And back then, I remember Franklin Thornton, Sorrells, Ronnie Sorrell, all of them there. I remember the voices because it's in my head and everything. Neil Jackson, Harry Arnold, Sr. There's a Jimmy Davis live over there in Madison. He's still alive. He runs a pawn shop, and he got a patch over his eye.
His name is Jimmy Madison?
Davis. He works at Madison.
Okay, Jimmy Davis.
Right.
The town of Madison.
He works at the pawn shop.
And he works at a pawn shop. Do you know the name of the pawn shop?
It's right there like going toward Edenton, Everton. It's on the left back in the shopping center.
All right. Which road is that shopping center on?
I don't know what the name of that highway. I just know direction when I go there.
And you said that he has a patch over his eye?
441? Right. It's not Highway 441?
You go to back to I-20.
Okay.
Highway 441 runs from Madison to Edenton.
You know where you go to Madison, you take a right, and then you go out, you stay on that road and go to the hospital, right? You bear off to your left, right there. You go about a half a mile.
278.
278, right.
Yeah, that's Highway 278.
There's a tire center right there on your left, and then there's a pawn shop right there on your left.
That's Highway 278.
And there's a man there with a patch over his eye named Jimmy Davis.
Right.
And he was on that bridge as well.
Yes.
Who else?
I know them two was there because those one my uncle talked about. He always talked about Earl Royster, and when I was a kid, they always talked about the lynch and everything. But those are one alive that I know the name for sure.
Okay.
All right, now the one that was dead years ago, it was a James McIntyre. He was a member of the KKK. He was involved in hanging the boy over there, Cover Bridge. There was a tree out there, he hung him out there and everything. But he's dead. Junior Parker, though, is still alive. He's a member of the KKK. His daddy is dead and everything, but he's a member.
And Mr. Parker, was he on the bridge as well?
Well, had nobody said it, but he's a member of the KKK.
How old is he?
He's probably about 83. He's about the same age as my uncle and everything. And you got they got a book out there that Brooks man supposedly wrote and everything. He talked about things, but a lot of that in there lies because they didn't mention all the names in Walden County.
Right.
You got the Christians, they KKK member. Over there, Gradis, you got a man named Vivian Allen. He probably old enough to be there, but he don't talk about it. But he married, these people sort of married into a group. Vivian Allen, he married to Neil Jackson's sister, I believe. Ira Breedlove was married to one of his sisters. Harry Brown, he married to a Jackson. They all kind of married into the family like that. And I recall when I come back in '93, there was a man named Gary Spink who was to testify against these people for tax evasion. And next thing you know, he was over there on a tractor, and supposedly Neil Jackson found a tractor on top of him with a bush hog run over. But this man had been doing farm work all his life. He knows better what to do and nothing like that. You have Miller out there, Grady. He lived right next to Robert Mitchell and everything. He was a member because I always used to work for Robert Mitchell, and people would talk about who's members of the KKK and everything. They get together. Neil Jackson's still a member. He claims he ain't, but he is and everything. You've got a lot of members here, and now they're getting quiet about it because when I went to that Sergeant Ferguson and gave him the name, in '93 I was talking to Mike Pearson. Mike Pearson was a G.B.R. I made statements to him, and he was trying to arrest Franklin Thornton, indict Franklin Thornton and Homer Reed for some stuff, and all of a sudden they had heart attacks and died. Palmer, they involved Lamar Palmer. He runs in that group and everything. But had nobody told me he was there, but I remember him at the meeting with the plan.
So you gave your documentation to Mr. Ferguson, to Sergeant Ferguson?
Right, here lately, the last 8 years, but back in '93 and '94, I went to a Mike Pearson.
Did you keep a copy of your documentation?
No. I had a lot of paperwork in my trailer, and when I sold it, they told me to get off the property. Went over there and took a lot of stuff. But
if we need to reach you, what's the best way to reach you?
Probably Mr. Howard. I'll stay in touch with him. I got a phone number, but they still monitor my calls.
Gotcha. So Mr. Howard knows how to reach you.
Yeah, I will make sure him.
Okay. And when was the last time that you went to a Klan meeting? How many years were you going to Klan meetings?
I remember that one time I went and everything, but when I lived out there, Gradis store,
yeah.
There was a guy there that was always putting things together named Montgomery. And his first name, I can't think of his first name right now. But he was always instigating stuff and talking about what they're going to do. And they even got together when Obama was running for office, president. They were talking about hiring a hitman. They got on the computer and having to kill. And Vivian Allen was always standing down there and talking to him. You had a Hernan, a plumber, that would always sit and talk to that group. There are a bunch of them, I didn't know the names, I didn't know the faces, but sometimes they have a meeting out there in the parking lot. They all sit around and drink beer and talk about what they're going to do. Sometimes they go to a Emmerich house. Like you go past Gradis store, the back way to Athens. There was an Emmerich live out there in the White House. On the left, he owned the farm. They go out there, his sons and everything, have a meeting right now. They say it's a party, but they all go out there and have a meeting, talk about what they're going to do. And when they found out that I was talking, I guess, Alan Cook, the DA was trying to find out who knew about it, nothing like that. And evidently, my attorney told somebody or told him. Because next thing I know, everybody in Walden County knew I was the one that knew about the KKK, who's alive. And people tried to bribe me. I've been to prison, a detention center, and they offered me money. Robert Mitchell offered me $250,000 to keep my mouth shut and walk away in '99. I told him I wouldn't do it. He said, you'll be dead before you ever testify. And there was a witness there named Larry Cole that I was at his house on Bryan Road when he called me. I got out of the detention center that night, and it wasn't an hour later, Robert Mitchell called me and told me that. And you just got Al Yarborough, he's a member of it. Most of the police, their families, their daddies, members, Mike Burt, nothing knew about it years ago. And his family, you got the Shea. All these groups, they never did really talk about it, but other people talk about who were members and nothing like that around here.
Is there anything else? Is there anybody who claimed to have a weapon that was involved in the?
They don't talk about no weapons. Most of them around here, Charlie Pepper still got an old shotgun, I think. But even that house over there, Gladys, that they went over there near, the house belonged to Harry Arnold Jr. Terry Briscoe claimed he called the FBI. I was the one that called the FBI and told him about the house. Because he walked away, he had a bunch of guns. The Briscoes was involved. He had a bunch of, Glenn Briscoe had a sawed-off shotgun, and he never would go into detail. He said there's a reason he kept it all the years, and he kept it hid. I don't know where he got it or who ended up got it now. But like I said, my uncle got a shotgun about like that. You got a group. I worked at John Manville. I worked at Leggett and Platt. And a lot of the white people that were members, because they always hated black people, they get talking about it. And they all had a sawed-off shotgun. Most of them did. But the old shotguns, I had some old pistols and everything I kept. I got rid of all them. But the old timers, the shotgun, most of them kept them, but they all pawned them. Because the old shotguns, they don't have no serial number on it, nothing like that, so they can sell it to what they want to, and you can't trace them down. But Robert Mitchell used to have some old shotgun, but he traded back and forth to people. And I'll tell you somebody that might have Ben Dinwiddie, the teacher over there in Social Circle. He used to be a gunsmith in Monroe. That man that run that hardware store in Social Circle, old man, he about 92 years old. I don't know if he's still alive or not. He used to talk about it. When I go in there.
Wiley?
Yeah, yeah. But
So Mr. Wiley used to talk about the Morris Ford lynching?
He'd get to talk about the man that talking about it need to keep his mouth shut every time I went in the store. The Malcolms, they was involved. You got another man, possible he's still alive, that's Curtis McDougal, but he's about 92 or 93 years old, I think. And he's supposed to be in a nursing home in Atlanta. And you got the Griffin, which is, Curtis was married to Ruth McDougal, and she dead. But Ruth McDougal's mother was alive when her name was Griffin. And her husband was a member of it, because I used to go over there and sit around there and talk about it. She had his suit and everything, what's called chest-like thing. And she gave it to a boy or a man named Greg Kinney. He had the Duke's outfit. And I saw it in 98.
Had whose outfit?
The Grand Dragon Wizard. Because this was in 99 when I got out of detention center. I went to live with this woman down there, and it was his brother that had the suit. And Mr. Griffin was his stepson. and he inherited it and everything. And he had it out 2 or 3 times, holding it up, looking at it and everything. And then you had a man, Steve Peters, used to be, I don't know if he got out of it, he was a member because he had the book back in December. And I kept telling Sergeant Ferguson that he had the book with all the information, all the names in it. And he gave it to a man named Randy Watkins. And they would hang around the store there and everything. But Sergeant Ferguson went back and told these people what I was doing. And Randy Watkins supposedly gave it to his son, who works at, I believe, the funeral home down here. His name is Tim. I believe he's supposed to be the coroner or do the fixing the body up. That's fine. But he's a Watkins.
Mr. Watson, I wrote down the names. I was trying to capture the names of the people who you said were still alive. I just want to make sure. I want to read these back to you and make sure that I got them. I got Roy Hester, Lloyd Harris, Chester Harris, Glenn Briscoe.
Glenn Briscoe, David.
David Briscoe.
No, he's dead.
Glenn's dead.
Okay. Jack Smith.
He's dead.
Earl Royster.
He's alive.
Harry Brown.
He's alive.
Curtis McDougal.
He should be alive. Last I heard, he was in a nursing home in Atlanta.
What about Judge Sackrell, was his last name? Sorrell.
He's still alive, as far as I know now. He might have passed away. No, he just resigned. But
Okay.
he's a member.
George Hearns.
He's still around.
Harry Arnold.
Junior's around. Senior, I think, Senior passed away, didn't he?
There is a Harry Arnold, one of the wealthiest white men in this county.
Yeah, Harry Arnold might be still alive.
I don't know if he's junior, senior, or not. He's junior? So he's a wealthy.
Senior dead.
I don't know.
Yeah, senior dead. Junior, he's still alive.
And Junior, is he old enough to have been there? You think he was there?
Yes, I think he is.
And Neil Jackson.
Yeah,
Jimmy Davis.
Jimmy Davis is alive, for sure.
And Junior Parker.
Junior Parker's alive.
Okay. Then there was a Baker, but it didn't have a first name.
Baker. George Baker. George Baker is dead, but George Baker Jr. is still alive. Everybody, when they passed away, they passed on everything to the kids. The books, everything goes to the kids. They automatically make a decision whether to be a member or not a member. But these people right here, back when I went forward, all of them was alive.
Remember you were talking about this book? You said you had notes and documents, but you gave it to somebody.
I gave it
Who
to
you gave it to?
Sergeant Ferguson.
He's still alive?
He's a young man, but he's supposed to be working for the city. I filed paperwork against him.
He was the one that told them what you were doing.
Yeah.
He's got the book. He took the book.
No, Jack Peters works at Peters Groceries. He the one that had the book. Steve
book.
Peters. Steve,
No,
Your book.
Oh, I wrote it
got
on
your
paper.
book?
I gave it to Sergeant Ferguson.
That's the one where you had detailed documentation.
Yeah, I wrote things down. And some of it I left it at home, and I went off and left it, and I know everything gone now because I went in there one day. I sold the place, and it was a trailer, and I went in there, and all the stuff, people done went through and got everything they wanted.
Not the rest of the stuff in your house, but the book you had Ferguson.
Your papers you gave to Ferguson.
I gave some of the paper to Ferguson.
And is he still on the force here?
They say he resigned. He's supposed to be working for the city, but I don't really know what they're doing because he says he's making more money now than he did before. And I knew about the lynch and everything. I was always going over there talking to him. He kept telling me to keep my mouth shut. There's another man runs a washateer. He drives a blue Cadillac. I remember him because when I left Ferguson's house, I can't think of his name, but he's old enough to be there. But I seen that little emblem. He's a veteran, but the KKK carried that little paper with an emblem like a marksmanship badge in their wallet, and that signified they was a member of the KKK also. And the military used it too, saying you're a veteran. but the KKK used it too on the little car.
And the, why does this case bother you so much? I mean, you've had a lot of people ask you to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Why do you stay interested in it?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of, when you go through life, you living with lies, or you living with people talking about things, a kid. And back in 92, I went through a divorce. My daughter got molested. My ex-wife, she started going back fooling with drugs and everything. And I come back down here. I worked with a TBI up there in Tennessee. They finally caught the people. And I come back to Georgia, and they got to talk about the same old thing. They got to talk about my uncle got to talk about the mowers forward and them cutting the baby. And I started telling them I was dating an African-American woman. All my kin people disowned me. They told me not to ever come around them again. Said, we'll kill you. Said, if you ever bring that woman to our house, we'll kill her. And I said, well, I'll put a stop to this. And I started spending my own money and everything. I worked. I went around to people, listened to what they got to say. The drugs, I went to, people don't realize it. The local drug people like Mike Burt, and there was a Wolf, Randy Wolf used to be an investigator over there in Barrow County. I went to him with drug information. None of the people never got busted. The Connors, Bill Connor never did get busted for drugs. None of them did. I went to the man's unit over there in Barrow County and talked to them. Everybody started getting busted for the drugs. I went to East Metro here in 95 or 96, and they got the Blackwells and all them. And Keith Glass tried to take control of that claim. He brought them in. I was the one that went to East Metro. I met with Chris Cannon. In 97 or 98, I got set up. I got charged with a criminal trespassing. I made bond. A friend of mine made bond for me, which was $65. I had the ticket, criminal trespassing. When I told them to come get me, I said, they're going to come up with something. Next thing I know, he come pick me up. They turned around, locked me up, shipped me to Barrow County. I stayed down there in Barrow County for, I don't know, about 4 months. They claimed they had a bench warrant. I was shackled, handcuffed to a drain in the floor, naked. Had to eat like a dog. They went in there with a fire thing, washed me off all day. The only day I could make calls is when these rookies come in, like at 5 o'clock in the morning. They'd let me slip and make a call, and I called Robert Mitchell. They finally got me out where I could have a hearing.
And Keith Glass, the one that you mentioned, was the chief of police, and he
Right.
was also in the Klan.
Right. He took over, yeah, he was the keeper of police. His daddy was the keeper Klan member.
So, are you motivated by your conscience, or are you motivated by what they've done to you because of this girl you was talking to?
I want it all over with. The racism, I mean, I've been on the street, and you know, I told people I dated a black woman and everything, and you can't get nothing. A white man goes around here and says he's dating a black woman or hanging around black people. You can't get no loan. You can't go to no bank, borrow money or nothing. They turn you down. And they make it excuses, but the money people right here, Robert Mitchell, Neil Jackson, Harry Arnold Jr., they own just about everything around here. And they still find out about that. You can't get no help around here.
Could I ask you, how old are you right now?
I'm 55.
55. And when this happened, how old were you?
I wasn't born. You talking
weren't
about the
born.
mowers forward, right?
Okay, okay. And the baby that was cut out and given for adoption, did anyone ever say who adopted the baby, where they sent the baby?
They took the baby to Atlanta. That's what my uncle told me. All the years, I remember every time I talked to him, he always said they cut the baby out, washed it off in the creek. Somebody took it to Atlanta. See, I got a daddy that was older than Charlie, but he died in prison when I was 4 years old or something, Tim Watson. So he was mean enough because he was racist. He beat on my mama. I know that. So all these people live right around there, Morris Ford area. My uncle did.
So you don't, because now I'm kind of confused. I just want to be clear. You don't think that the baby was killed when they killed her?
No, they cut the baby out. I said the same thing. I told my uncle. I said the woman Whitney was pregnant and everything, and the baby was killed. He cussed me, called me every name in the book. He said, "Don't call me a freaking liar," but he used the cuss word. He said they cut the baby out. They washed it off in the creek and gave it to somebody, and they took it supposedly to Atlanta. He said, I'm not sure if they took it to Atlanta. All I know, they were supposed to take it to Atlanta.
And your uncle, his point was that he was there and he saw
That's
them
right.
do this.
That's right.
What was your uncle's name again?
Charlie
Right,
Pepper.
that's the point. Yeah, I got it.
Now, there's another Charlie Pepper that one lived in Wyandotte. This man right here lived on Double Spring Road, I believe, like north toward the reservoir, on the left. And he got coon dogs.
All right, so let's go through some of these folks. The ones who are alive, he's going to tell you the name, and you tell us if you know anything about where they live, where they work, where we can find them. All right?
Roy Hester.
I think he still lives on Hestertown Road over here, don't he?
There's a lot of Hesters out there, Hestertown, big family of them.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, it's,
But Roy Hester would be about 80, in his late 80s or early 90s?
yeah.
All right.
Lloyd Harris.
Lower Harris dead.
Okay.
is that
Chester
Harrison?
Harris.
Chester Harris. I'm not, is that one they got, one they call Claude? You got Claude Harris?
No, Claude it is.
Yeah. Claude's still alive, as far as I know.
And where does, say Claude Harrison or Harrison?
Harris.
And Claude Harris, what
Live
is,
in Bethlehem, supposed to.
okay.
George Baker.
George Baker dead.
George Baker Jr., rather, I'm sorry.
George Baker Jr., I think he's over one of the banks and everything. He's still around.
Bank here in Monroe?
He's in Monroe. George Baker Jr. in Monroe.
Jack Smith.
He's dead. Little Jack is still alive, so.
I need to put the juniors in here. Jack Smith Jr., rather.
He lived going towards Social Circle. There's a road right before you get to the bridge. You take a right. He got a farm out down your left. I know where it's at, but
Harry Brown.
Harry Brown, I know where the filling station is, that Brown Oil Company. I see him every day. He's alive.
Curtis McDougal.
Curtis McDougal's supposed to be in Atlanta. He was with his sister. He's supposed to be in a nursing home. You can go down there and talk to Shirley Richardson down at Johnson Mobile Home Park, and she'll tell you which nursing home he's in.
Judge Sorrell.
Judge Starr is supposed to be still alive.
Where does he live?
He used to live, when you go into town, the first, second red light, you take a right. See,
Is it about
yeah,
the
second
utility
red light.
building?
Yeah, you take a right, go back down on the left. He did live right
So
there.
he's still right in Monroe?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
George Hearns.
George Hunter's still alive.
You know where?
He's from Monroe. I don't know exactly where he lives.
Harry Arnold.
Junior's still alive. Senior's, I think he's senior dead.
Neil Jackson.
He's alive.
But where does he live? That's so important.
Neil Jackson lived out there. You go to Campton, you take a right, and you stay on that road. You see, you go about 3 miles, you see a white fence and everything. He's got a little white house right down the right.
All right, so he's in the town of Campton?
He what?
Which town is it?
Campton.
Campton.
But he got Neil Jackson Realty. He's the man
Okay.
right there.
Jimmy Davis.
Jimmy Davis, he's supposed to be live over there near the bridge, but he got that work at that pawn shop in Madison.
And then Junior Parker.
Junior Parker live in Campton. You go to Campton, you take a left, and you go about 3 miles, and you'll see there'll be one house here that was Arnie Parker lived. There's another house there that was Andy Abode lived, and then Junior got about the third or fourth house.
So Kevin, how many people do we have who are still alive?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
All right, it sounds like there's some work for the FBI to do. All right, well, sure, and then let's wrap up.
Do you know Roy Holder?
Holder's still alive. I've seen him around, and I had never really talked to him, nothing like that. But he's associated with Neil Jackson, Robert Mitchell. They all buddy.
And Roy Holder, do you know that he was there? Have you heard he was there?
I can't say because this group, they just talk among themselves.
But the rest of the folks who we went through, those are folks that you've heard were there on the bridge.
Right. Now, there's a Bill Shea and a John Shea. John Shea is a junior, and he would always go to the meetings over there gratis with those boys over there.
The
he used to,
clan meetings.
Right. Vivian Allen's still alive now. He's old enough to be there.
I see.
But I had never heard.
Right, but again, the rest of the folks, these folks who you heard were there.
Yeah.
It's enough for something to be done here.
Right.
Let me ask you also, did anyone else other than your uncle describe what happened on the bridge?
Well, he the only one I went around, but when I was a kid, when everybody walking around in the yard, Bob Royster, he was there and nothing like that, but they all used to laugh and make fun of Earl Royster, all of them did when I was growing up.
And did you talk to any blacks that may have been hiding and witnessed it, or
the Blackwell, see, that's something else. The Blackwell lived over there next to it when it took place. But I was told that's the reason they become the biggest drug dealers in Walden County, because they knew information and they hid it. So the Blackwell, the police kept them, letting them do what they could do all the years. So the Blackwells now, they scared, and there's a Dexter Blackwell, he tried to claim he knew everything. But what he did, Sergeant Ferguson went to him and told him, because they was in jail, and each one of them got out of jail early because they knew supposedly the name, and I was the one that knew the name, but Sergeant Ferguson went and told them who it was, so they could cut a deal and get out of prison. So they crooked.
Gotcha.
Do you know of any Whiteheads or Palmers?
Yeah, Whitehead's still alive now. There's a Whitehead. He lives out there, Watkinsville. I mean.
But do you know that he was involved?
Yeah, because I won't forget, I used to play these slot machines. And if he's still alive, I can't think of his first name, but I go to Statham to play those slot machines. He used to come over there, and he told me he just got out of prison. That one just got out of prison. He served time for murdering somebody, but he got out. And he talked about he regretted everything he done and everything like that. And that was still something he needed to take care of. So I don't know if he's still alive or not.
But he talked about being involved in the
he was a member of the KKK. I knew that from years ago.
But was he involved in the Morse Ford?
I can't say for sure because he never did come out.
What about the Malcolms?
The Malcolms, my uncle hung around them and everything. That one man.
Charlie Pepper hung around them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He could go hunting over there on that land.
And did you ever hear of any of the Malcolms being involved in this?
They were supposed to be involved.
Okay. All right. Is Jack Malcolm the one that's still alive? Did you have it on your list?
One of them died.
Who was that again?
The Malcolms.
The brothers. There are two. Well, they might be dead now because one of them died. I saw one at the post office right after I met with you. He told me I better keep my mouth shut.
But Mr. Howard, you said that you were focused on the Malcolms. Which Malcolms are you focused on?
Ralph now.
Ralph?
Yeah. One of them died. That might be, one of them still alive, one of them supposed to be dead.
All right. But
one of them told me I better keep my mouth shut right after I met with Mr. Howard.
I got you. And from your understanding, the Malcolms were involved.
Right.
All right. All right. All right. I think we got an exhaustive list. As exhaustive as we're going to get. So, sir, thank you very much. I'm going to.
But when I get my head together, I can live my life.
President.
Well, let me tell you this. When Ed DuBose was talking about the attack on me or other civil rights leaders, if I hadn't grown up in SCLC, I would be totally confused But I grew up under the leadership of Jose William, Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King, Joseph Lowry, C.T. Vivian, Andy Young, and they convinced me every single day that we've got to keep moving forward in spite of the attack. Andy Young, every time he sees me, he'd grab me and he says, you know what we taught you now when you were a child? We taught you what to expect in this movement. And we told you that if you couldn't take it, don't join it. He said, they killed Martin, they smeared Martin, and then they killed him because they couldn't stop him. Now, let me tell you this. We brought you copies of a story today by Ariel Hart, Atlanta Journal-Constitution writer. We brought hard copies to First AB. Some of you picked up the article. It ran on January the 20th of this year, the day that we were honoring Dr. King on the national holiday. She's writing about how Dr. King was being attacked while he was working to get the Civil Rights Bill through Congress. Now, you can find it online, arielhartajc.com, January 20th. You need to read that because that will give you some insight into what Ed was trying to say a minute ago. Now, we understand it clearly. Now, the second thing I want to say is this. On January the 15th in the state capitol last year, Elder Bernice King spoke in the rotunda. And here's what she said while I'm looking in her in the eye. She looked at me and she said, my daddy, talking about Martin Luther King Jr., she said, my daddy was the most hated man in America and they killed him.
That's right.
Now that he's dead, everybody loves him. She said that in the state capitol January, a year ago. On June 1 of last year, after I left Monroe, I went back to the King Center to join Reverend C.T. Vivian. That Saturday morning, we were in the screening room of the King Center. Reverend Vivian, Syracuse University, that's working with us on Morris Ford, and Reverend King, Bernice King, came in there that morning to greet us, and she said, I'm so glad to see Tyrone and Reverend Vivian here. She said, we got all of these families from around the country who've lost loved ones. They're seeking justice. They haven't gotten justice yet. And she said, my family is still seeking justice because we want to know who killed my daddy. She said, Mr. James R. Ray didn't kill my daddy. The government killed him.
That's right.
And she said, when my mama took her children and I into the prison in Tennessee to meet with Mr. Ray in 1998, we spent over 3 hours with Mr. Ray. And when we came out, my mama held a news conference. Judge Joe Brown had arranged all of that before he went to Hollywood to become a TV judge. She said, my mama held a news conference and told the world that we were more convinced than ever that Mr. James R. Ray didn't kill my daddy, that the government did.
Amen.
Yes,
And she said, Tyrone, you and Reverend Vivian got to keep on telling the world that we are seeking justice also in the death of my father, Martin Luther King Jr. Now, Mercedes wants me to tell those of you who do not know that the reason the Malcolms and Doyces were murdered on this bridge on July 25th, 1946 is because they refused to be some scared Uncle Tom Negroes. Roger Malcolm had gone out to Hestertown and he had challenged a white man for saying inappropriate or doing inappropriate things to his wife. And they had a fight in the yard in Hestertown, which is right around that curve up there. This black man confronted this white man. George Dorsey, who had been in the Army, came back as a decorated war veteran, said, I'm going to register and vote, and I'm going to be a full-class citizen. I've been fighting for freedom and justice for others around the world, particularly in Europe, and I can't even vote here. They said, boy, if you register to vote, we'll kill you. Well, all of these things were converging around a gubernatorial campaign. Governor Eugene Chalmers was running for his 4th term. He was in and out of Walton County. Senator Strom Thurmond from Edgefield County, South Carolina was here. Senator Richard B. Russell, who lived right up the road 10 miles in Wyoming, was over here. The Ku Klux Klan was a very powerful force in this county. They controlled everything. The Klan was the judges, they were the sheriff, they were the chief of police, they were the developers, they were the bankers, they had all the money, they were the big farmers, and they ran this county. This was the hot seat of the Ku Klux Klan. So after they arrested Roger, they didn't kill him over there in Hestertown. Roger fought Barney Hester. He cut him. They took him downtown to the Walton County Jail, and you'll see that during the reenactment. Held him for 11 days. Over that 11-day period, they planned the massacre on this bridge. The Walton Tribune says there were over 200 Klansmen on this bridge on July 25th, 1946. They came from Walton County. They came from Barrow County. They came from Oconee County. They came from Gwinnett County. They came from Clark County. And they were some of the most prominent, wealthy citizens in this region. They came together and they conspired to send a message to black people.
Amen.
They used the N-word. I won't use it before these children. I don't do it anymore. They use the N-word. We're going to keep these N's in their place.
Amen.
We're going to teach them a lesson. They can't do that. Governor Talmadge was saying it in his speeches as he ran around the state on the stump, using the N-word, comparing black women to milk cows. Governor Eugene Talmadge, children. So on this bridge, which we consider sacred, a massacre occurred on July 25th, 1946. Killed those African Americans simply because they refused to be some scared Negroes. They were young, 21, 22 years old. They were very young people. They were very young people. Kendrick was only 17. So some of them were like 4 years older than Kendrick. They were young, 21, 22 years old. They were not old people. They was young. And the mobsters were young. Some of the mobsters were in their teen years. Some were in their 20s. You know, I use Dr. Lowry as an example. Dr. Lowry be 93 October 6th. In 1946, he was 25 years old. Most of the mobsters were less than 25 years old in 1946. Dorothy Malcolm, she was 7 months pregnant, according to the undertaker, Mr. Dan Young. They cut the baby out of Dorothy. We thought they buried the baby with the mother. We cannot find a headstone. We cannot find a grave marker. We cannot find a casket in the ground. When Mr. Wayne Watkins told us on April 6th of last year that his uncle, who was on this bridge that day, that's the video you're going to see on YouTube soon. We've shown it 3 times, but you'll see it on YouTube soon. He says his uncle told him they cut the baby out of Dorothy Malcolm. They took the baby to that creek over there, washed it off, wrapped it up, sent it to Atlanta, and put it up for adoption.
That's what he told me.
Now that's on the video. This man who's talking to us says that's what his uncle, who was on the bridge, who was in the mob, told him what happened to the baby. We always wonder what happened to the baby. We gave the baby a name in 08. We called the baby Justice. Well, baby Justice is living somewhere. Justice will be about 68 years old now. Justice could be living, Mercedes, somewhere. We don't know, but this is what this man told us, and it's on the video. Eric Holder has the video. He called a whole lot of names. So I'm giving you this because Mercedes wants you to understand why we come here and why this is so solemn to us. This is not a plaything to us.
That's right.
We get a lot of threats. I get threats. They text me now. Yeah, they text me. They email me threats. They hard mail me threats. I get phone calls, you know, all kinds of phone calls, strange calls coming from strange numbers. But I'm used to that. It doesn't bother me one bit. Because I was trained that if you join the civil rights movement, this is the way your life is going to be.
Yes.
This is my lifetime sentence. This is the way it'll be for me until I die. And I understand that. I'm not complaining. Because I was told as a child, when I was about summer's age, well, if you join this movement, this is the way your life is going to be. And if you can't take it, you don't want to be in it.
That's right.
Yes.
Jose always told us in seminars and workshops while we were being trained, if the Ku Klux Klan don't kill you, the government probably will. Those are Jose's words, and Andy Young reminds me of that all the time, Ed. So I'm doing this because Mercedes wanted you to understand why we're here. We take this seriously.
Yes.
It's not a plaything for us children. SGA, Farrell High School, you need to take this information, you need to disseminate it. We want to thank Miss Lemon and others who brought you all here, and we want you to bring other children here. Now one thing I'll say, this is it, I'm through. I was a little boy growing up in the country in Warrenton. My mother and grandmother had a relationship with 2 Jewish families, the Steins and the Tannenbaums. And every time I had a chance to go to their homes or sit in their stores in downtown Warrenton, these Jews were the 2 prominent people who would hire black folk. White folks wouldn't hire black folks in my little hometown. It was segregated, but the Jews who came from New York, they opened up their businesses to my mother and my grandmother, and we had a very good bond. They had to go to Augusta to worship. There was no Jewish synagogue in Warrenton. They had to drive to Augusta, but sometimes we would go to their homes. And sitting in their homes, and my grandmama knew how to prepare the kosher food for them, we would sit there and they would talk